Hello, welcome back to my channel. Please subscribe to my channel, like my videos, and please check out my channel for other updates. So the last update about Twist of Fate. Prachi decided to leave the Kohli's house with Shahana because Ranbir lied to her in order to make her get a little jealous, but Prachi misunderstands Ranbir. Let's continue. Prachi tells Ranbir that she is leaving the house. Rhea thinks it seems that Ranbir told her everything, that he wanted to divorce Prachi. Shahana asks Rhea to come with her and takes her from there. Stanley hears Ranbir and Prachi's conversation. Ranbir asks Prachi where will she go at this time. Prachi says when people can have party at this time, then can't I go out of the party? Stanley thinks that Ranbir is Babu Bali and Prachi is Dev Sina. Both are in full form. Ranbir says I will show what I can do, and he takes off the clothes from Prachi's bag. Prachi says I have another bag. Ranbir throws the bag away and says you will not go. Prachi says I will make potly of clothes. Stanley thinks that they are fighting cutely. Ranbir lies down on the bed to cover Prachi's clothes. Prachi asks Ranbir to give her a reason why she should not go. Stanley thinks that he would hear the confession. Shahana confronts Rhea for secretly listening to Prachi and Ranbir's conversation. Rhea says I was keeping an eye on Prachi and I trust my husband. Shahana says people like you do bad with others to set your life. Rhea says after 12 a.m. I will not do anything after whatever Ranbir is going to do to me. Rhea says to Shahana that Ranbir himself told Prachi about the flat and says the shock for Prachi is much bigger. Prachi says I have the reason to go far and says she wants to end the memories related to that rented house. She says you know how attached I was with that house. It was my dream and you are fulfilling as someone else's dream. Ranbir says hi. Prachi says to Ranbir that I have seen that you were sitting on your knees in front of Rhea. Ranbir says you said right, this has happened, but the matter is something else. Ranbir says I wanted you both to say yes, but the matter was something else. Prachi asks Ranbir to go and convince Rhea to say yes to his proposal. Prachi asks why did you come to me? Ranbir asks if Prachi is jealous. Prachi says if I was jealous, then I would have called people when you sat on your knees in front of Rhea. She says she is leaving. Ranbir says to Prachi that I will fix everything and he asks her to stay for some more time. Prachi tries to take the bag. Ranbir says it is given by mommy and I will not give you. Prachi goes. Stanley comes to the room and asks Ranbir what is he doing. Vikram asks Grandma why is she holding her head. Grandma also asks Vikram why is he holding his head. Vikram says I had drink. Grandma says maybe even I drank mistakenly. Vikram laughs. Pallavi asks Grandma if she is fine. Grandma says yes. Pallavi asks did you remember what you have done? Grandma remembers, but she says no. Pallavi says I will tell Grandma everything, and she says to Grandma that you scolded me and you call me a bad mother-in-law. Vikram says you scolded my wife. Grandma says I don't remember. Pallavi says you said so much. Grandma says my drink might have made me said everything. Vikram says to Pallavi that I am standing in front of you as I am drunk, else I wouldn't have stand. Pallavi gets upset and goes. Grandma says if everyone gets drunk, then Pallavi would leave the house. Vikram says Rhea should also leave. Stanley tells Ranbir that he cannot make food. Ranbir gets a pill from the kitchen and says this time we will make Rhea drink. Stanley says don't make me a waiter this time. Ranbir says I will make Rhea drink and if I fail, then you make her drink. He says I will call you. Ranbir gives a pill to Stanley and adds another in the drink. They come out. Stanley says Prachi is there. Ranbir asks should I make her drink? Stanley says no. Ranbir searches for Rhea. Grandma asks Prachi and says you are bearing so much in this house. She cries feeling bad for Prachi. Prachi says to Grandma that everything will be fine when the divination changes and says everything will be fine means me and my art piece. Ranbir is searching for Rhea. Prachi asks him to give juice to her. Ranbir says it is not for you and asks her to leave the glass. Ranbir goes. Prachi gets upset. Ranbir asks Rhea to drink the juice. Rhea says I will drink it later as I had it just now. Ranbir looks at Stanley. Rhea says she will do something for him. He signals to Stanley before going. Stanley goes to take the glass which Rhea has kept on the table. Pallavi says my better and my daughter-in-law is looking nice. Grandma says can we go to our room now? Prachi says I want to see if Ranbir crosses his limit. Stanley changes his clothes and wears the waiter's clothes. Shahana notices him and thinks that something is going on. Rhea dances with Ranbir. Prachi looks sad. Rhea asks Ranbir not to look here and there and he should not get bored. She says you will see Prachi then and asks him to see just her. Ranbir says I was not looking at Prachi for the reason taught by you. Prachi says to Ranbir that I couldn't see anything now. There's a limit to bear. Ranbir holds Prachi's hand and started dancing with her. Rhea looks at them and continues dancing with someone else. Ranbir and Prachi dance. The song continues to play. Everyone claps for Ranbir and Prachi. Ranbir calls Vikram. Vikram brings the doll. Ranbir and Vikram dance on a song. Stanley and Shahana comes there. Ranbir looks at Stanley holding the juice tray. Rhea says that was amazing. Ranbir holds Rhea's hand and asks her to have some juice. Prachi gets upset and she goes from there. Ranbir calls Stanley, who is in disguise of a waiter, to come there. Rhea says she will not drink. Ranbir says you must be tired. Rhea says I will drink if you give me with your hand and with love. Ranbir gives the glass in Rhea's hand and asks her to drink it. Prachi looks on. Ranbir asks Rhea to drink the juice with his love and from his hand. Prachi gets upset and goes. Rhea drinks the juice. Ranbir asks her to drink more. She drinks. Ranbir says good job. Shahana asks Prachi what is she thinking. Prachi asks if there is anything good happening to her and says that many things happened around us which seems to be real, but they are just our illusion. Prachi says even I feel that Ranbir cares for me, but it is my illusion. She says Ranbir saved my wedding necklace risking his life and he saved me too, but it seems good, but it is not true. She says I just wanted Ranbir to wish me happy anniversary and I did not want a gift from him, but he planned a surprise for Rhea. Shahana says to Prachi that I saw something and Shahana recalls Ranbir signing to Stanley. She says Ranbir is planning something. She says maybe he. Prachi cut her off and asks her to complete her words. Shahana says maybe Ranbir wants to do something with Rhea in your favor. And maybe Ranbir wants to become good in Rhea's sight and bad in your sight. Rhea tells Ranbir that something is happening to her. Ranbir says you will be fine and says I will take you to the room. Rhea says I know you are thinking to take my advantage as I am out of control. Ranbir says no and says nothing would happen as you thought. Rhea says I want this to happen and says but she couldn't complete her statement and says she will take me to my room and then I will rest. Ranbir says to Rhea that let's go to the room. Rhea says I will be right back and then the room. Ranbir thinks then divorce. Stanley comes to him. Ranbir hugs him and says I love him. Stanley asks him not to say anything and hide his happiness. Grandma looks at them and misunderstands that Ranbir and the waiter has a friendship. Rhea comes to Ranbir and says you were going to take me to the room. Grandma tells Pallavi that Ranbir got close to someone and asks her to see. She signals to Pallavi to look at Stanley, who is in the waiter's uniform. Pallavi says he is a waiter and he was close to Ranbir. She says what if he was making excuse that a security guy sent him? She gets worried. Grandma tells Pallavi that this is all due to you and says Ranbir was married to Prachi, then you got her remarried, and that is why he lost interest in girls and he got interested in Stanley. Prachi says to Shahana that Ranbir told her himself that he bought the house for Rhea and he told her about his future plans. Shahana asks Prachi to be quiet and see why she is saying this. Prachi says feelings are betrayed. We trust the opposite person and set our word, but hearts broke and the truth comes out. She says she doesn't want to feel anything. Shahana and Prachi hears Rhea laughing. Prachi says this is her voice. She is very happy. Prachi asks Shahana to come from there and says she doesn't want her to be jealous. Prachi comes there and sees Ranbir taking Rhea to the room. Ranbir asks Rhea to sit. Prachi says to Shahana that I want to see what is happening inside. She finds the window closed and tells Shahana that what did she say? That Ranbir is planning something for her. Ranbir asks Rhea not to sleep and sign some papers for him. Rhea says papers? Ranbir says to Rhea that this is our happiness papers for long run, which you would understand later. Rhea says what if I don't understand? Ranbir says I will make you understand. Rhea says I have to sign. Ranbir says I will get the pen. He searches for the papers. Rhea opens the window and sees Prachi. She thinks I see her always and says I get angry seeing you. What are you doing here? She says now my private time with Ranbir is going on and asks her to go. She drops the divorce papers and then asks Prachi to lift it up and says it is my property papers. Prachi bends down to take the papers. Rhea says I have dropped the papers. Ranbir comes out to take the papers. Prachi and Shahana hide from there. Ranbir takes the papers. Rhea says Prachi bent down and you got up. She says there are two Ranbirs. Ranbir says it is just one. Ranbir asks Rhea to sign on the papers as Rhea Kohli. Rhea says you will be happy if I sign. Rhea says my happiness lies with you. You are my life. I have done so much to get you. You are my trophy. She asks him for a kiss. Prachi tries to hear them. Rhea says, I will sign the papers if Ranbir kisses me. Ranbir asks, really? Rhea asks him to hold her face and kiss her. Ranbir thinks that kissing Rhea is the price that he have to pay to stay with Prachi. Now he have to make her happy. He says, I cannot do this. Rhea says aloud, you kissed me? Ranbir says, yes, I kissed you. Prachi comes inside and tells Ranbir that I would have gone quietly from here. Prachi says to Ranbir that you cannot show my face to me all my life. She asks him to continue kissing and says nobody will be there to stop you. Ranbir gets shocked. Prachi and Shahana go from there. Rhea asks where to sign. Ranbir asks her to sign there. Rhea signs on the divorce papers and gives it to Ranbir. Ranbir looks on. Prachi takes her bag and leaves the Kohli's house. She says she cannot stay here anymore. Stanley sees Ranbir and Shahana leaving and he calls Ranbir. He then thinks to follow them and tell Ranbir later. Ranbir gets happy holding the divorce papers and he dances to express his happiness. Ranbir thinks that now everything will be fine. Prachi, he says all the problems will be resolved. I have divorced Rhea and she has gone away from my life. He says just Prachi will stay in my life now. He says I will show you what you and our child means to me. He says where is Prachi? Ranbir comes to the party looking for Prachi. Vikram asks if he was searching for him. Ranbir says you are here. Vikram says I know whom you are searching for. Pallavi says he was searching for me. Ranbir says yes. Vikram asks Ranbir why is he lying. Ranbir says I am searching for Prachi. Vikram says Prachi went upstairs. Ranbir goes upstairs. Pallavi says to Vikram that Ranbir has bought the ring to propose to Rhea. Then why is he searching for Prachi? Vikram says to Pallavi that you are having a misunderstanding. Pallavi says you are having a misunderstanding and she asks him to realize this sooner. Stanley follows Prachi and Shahana going to a house. He asks the taxi driver about the place. Ranbir comes to the room and finds Prachi missing. He gets worried after realizing that Prachi had eventually leave him and go away. Alright, thank you all so much for watching. Please don't forget to like this video, share it, and please subscribe to my channel for more updates. Thank you.